and we're hoping that the African continent, our mother Africa, will be, they will see the need to tap into this unique group that has the intellectual, firepower as well as the financial firepower. I'll give you an example of a very simple analogy that in Cape Verde, we have about 500,000 people in Cape Verde, but we have over 1 million of them outside Cape Verde living in the diaspora. And the economic lifeline of Cape Verde today is dependent on the Cape Verdeans outside Cape Verde, who are the Cape Verde in diaspora who are supporting the country. So, like I said, I will leave it at that, and see if the network will allow us to share ideas in the areas of question and answer. Over to you, Mr. Sampson.
But we can hear you, my brother. We can hear you 100%. If you have something to add, please, you can add.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wasn't quite sure if you were. But like I said, about 500,000 Cape Verdeans. That's the population of Cape Verde. We have over 1 million, 100,000 outside Cape Verde, which is something that keep up the life wire. And like we all notice that the African diaspora is not just about a region of remittances. We are a region of thinkers, builders, innovators, and patriots. We love our homeland. That's why we always engage, and I can feel the passion involved when people are discussing about Africa. All we need is for our government to take us seriously, so that we can, we also ask the diaspora to embrace this global family, and so we can continue to make the reality of the sixth region in Africa a reality. So, like I said, I'll be open in case I have issues that they want me to address particularly. I'll be more than honored to contribute my bit. Thank you so much, and over to you, Samson. Well, you're right. Like the Nigerians in diaspora are one of the biggest diaspora community globally that actually also organized in the sense that we have what we call the Nigerians in diaspora organization called NIDO, which was the brainchild of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. We agree that we are roughly between 20 million plus Nigerians in diaspora. A breakdown by International Office on Migration. We have about 50,000 Nigerians in Germany, over 676,000 in Ghana, over 619 in Italy, over 561 in Saudi Arabia, over 788,000 in Australia, over 547,000 in Kenya, and so on and so on. And these numbers in the United States and in UK are tripling all these numbers. And so, like you also rightly said, remitting billions, of dollars to Nigeria, which is actually over 4% of Nigerian GDP. In spite of these big remittances, the Nigerian government, unlike most African countries, have not been able to offer us this opportunity, to have a say in the affairs of the nation. And I think it's, do I say it's deliberate? It's deliberate in the sense that they know that most Nigerians and most diaspora, we are not tied to the apron string of the government, so to say. They know that, like most people say that the diasporans are the first movers, and they have the best, of whatever you can think from their respective place of abroad. You can take, for instance, the last election. The last election, I think whatever INEC considered as the result of that election was, probably won in less than, a 20 million margin, if at all, or with 15 million margin, if at all. So you can realize that if you have about 20 million Nigerians who are living in diaspora who are allowed to vote, it means that they would definitely, be a very significant force to deal with, who are not going to be scared of what the government is going to think about them, who are not going to be, being carried away by monetary values and the rest of them. So I think it's a deliberate thing. It's a deliberate thing that they are trying to keep the Nigerians, abroad from participating, knowing that they can be a very, very, they can play a very role in determining who is going to be the government of Nigeria. And I think that is one of the practical reasons why they are trying to keep us away from participating. What can we do? On one side, it is not always easy to put all the blame on the government. The diaspora also have to play a role. What do I mean by that? If you look at whether it's in Australia, whether it's in India, whether it's in the Israelis, the diaspora, they played a very important role because they were able to organize themselves very, very well and began to form a pressure group. Of course, because of the fact that Nigeria, because of probably how we are being, put together, 600 or 400 different ethnic groups. We have the Igbos, the Yorubas, the Hausas, we have the minorities and the rest of them. Everybody always wants to put somebody from their region, first and favor them, even though they don't have the capacity to do that. What am I trying to say? If the diaspora, 20 million of us, can rally around, whether it is Samson, whether it's Kwame, whether it's Adebayo, that we believe that this individual, irrespective of their political parties, are able to represent the interest of the diaspora, the Nigerian we wish to see. I can bet you that we can put our resources together. We can put what we are praising ourselves to, the know-how, the knowledge, the human capacity building and the rest of them, and make sure that this individual or these individuals are able to ascend the government and be able to, become the new president of Senegal. We see what is happening, or from Guinea-Bissau. These are, Africans that have the heart of Africa, and their people are hard. So if the diaspora can be able to lobby their way through, to be able to support these individuals who will go back to their own countries and become the leaders of thought, the leaders that we want to see, I think the diaspora will be able to, to make that move. Unfortunately, we have not been able to do that, like I said, because a thief from my ethnic group is better than a cent from the other ethnic group. And until we ascend that problem, we will continue to have issues with the diaspora being a force to reckon with. I rest and I leave the mic to you, Mr. Sampson. Well, I think you've really summarized a little bit of that, which is good enough. If you listen to the president of Burkina Faso himself, or let me even use a popular saying that we have poor people in Africa, but Africa as a continent is not poor. We have some of the best resources that this earth can boast of. We also have European government per se are not really bad per se, but we have a lot of actors within these countries. Call them capitalists, call them some clique that try to exploit the resources of Africa and trying to use the power of the media. Up till now, the West controls the media. They control the narrative. The dangers of the single story, telling us which country is bad and which country is good, whether Mama Gaddafi is bad, whether Thomas Sankara is bad, and the rest of them. So they were able to use that, to achieve their aims before now. Thank God for the revolution of the social media, like the platform we're having now, where we can have, access to information and be able to share our ideas across the globe. The good thing is that the Africans are realizing that we have to tell our own story. We need to, stand against the issue of the single narrative. Again, the African Union, the concept of the sixth diaspora region was supposed to, to bring in the Africans together to have a African reawakening once again. And I see demonstration in Nigeria, I see demonstration in Zambia, I see demonstration even, across the globe in support of the Guinea-Bissau president. I think we should begin to, to go outside this momental, patriotism or Pan-Africanism. We need to put our money where our mouth is and begin to support these individuals. The question is, how do we organize ourselves? It's good enough, to say, say all the good things, all the beautiful things here on the TikTok platform. How do we begin to have, a platform where our money can speak for us? Then you have to create this platform. You have to get trusted individuals who are going to manage those platforms, who are going to manage the resources and make sure that those resources are channeled, right to the places where they are needed. Do we have such organizations? Do we have such persons? Do we have such capacities and capabilities? Until we're able to create such, capacities, this dream will continue to be an illusion, in achieving that.
Thank you. All right, all right. Yeah, like prior, you are very, very welcome. Before now, I think we were talking about the leadership of the Nigerians in diaspora before you came in. My question is the issue of voting, like he rightly said, is where I am really interested in, because I think that what we are facing back home is this leadership problem. So if there is a way the organization, your organization could speed up, working on how they could because I heard last year we talked about it and they said they were going to move the motion in the house, but I don't know. So if there is a way that you could make it hasty, because that is what I think we really need now, because we need to have a voice back home, because we cannot be bringing investment back home while we cannot also affect political leadership back home. That is just all I have. If there is a way you guys can put pressure on it, to actualize it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rui. You see, like I said, thank God for social media. I've been in Nido for, I think Samson can also confirm that. I've said I've dedicated the last 10 years of my life in the service of diaspora, most of them being under the platform of Nido. I led a delegation on behalf of Nigerians in diaspora to visit INEC. I think that was in 2017, 2018, where we made a provision that the diaspora should be able to vote. INEC assured us that they have the ability, the capability to allow the Independent National Electoral Commission, the body that is responsible for organizing the election in Nigeria. So we visited them, and then we made a provision for the diaspora to vote. They assured us that it's going to happen, but they need to change the constitution where the physical appearance and being tied to a certain constituency allows you to vote. It was this lobbying that gave rise to the electronic voting that started generating traction. This electronic voting started generating traction that led that we have the so-called BIVA, where people can vote online. But again, that final straw to pass that law allowing the diaspora to vote actually passed first and second reading at the House, and then about only 65 or so members of National Assembly voted in favor of diaspora voting. The large majority of them voted against it. Now, the good news is that at least we have some the members of National Assembly that understood that it is important for the diaspora to vote. Again, that comes back to my former question. the current chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora, the current chairman, House Committee on Diaspora, one Honorable Korea, um, moved a second motion, again trying to force a vote on the diaspora, to be able to vote. Again, I took up those initiatives with a couple of friends to, invite this guy to Europe, go around, European tour to conscientize the diaspora the need for us to do that. Now, to do that, we need to have a town hall meeting, whether it's in UK, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in Italy, whether it's in United States, and so on and so forth. And when you ask the diaspora, I'm giving you a critical example. When you ask the diaspora that we need to organize this town hall meeting, whether it's in Berlin, whether it's in Munich, whether it's in Houston, and we need to contribute money to rent the hall, get the logistic, majority of Nigerians, rightly or wrongly, we tell you that these senators earn fat salaries, that they earn a lot of money. Why do we have to contribute money to host them, in able to to actualize our lobby group? Again, there's a disconnection there, because even in the United States, you get to lobby member of Congress. If you have an initiative and you want them to pass law on certain things, you have to lobby them. So Africans in diaspora, unfortunately, including Nigerians in diaspora, because of the bad government we have, bad in our country, are still to come to terms that when you have these 67 senators or 67 House of Assembly members that voted in support of diaspora, but now we need to lobby them. We need to be their friends. We need to understand why they were only 60 something when we have over 300 and something House members. So it means that we need to get majority of these people. How do we get them? By by interacting with them, by doing a town hall meeting, by telling them the need for them to make sure that these laws are passed. Are we able to do that? So far, sorry, the Nigerians in diaspora are not ready to do that. So until we learn how to lobby our legislators, no matter how horrible they are currently, we will not be able to get that law passed. So we need to come down to begin to make sure that we identify those senators, identify those House of Assembly members, identify the key makers, who has been supporting the diaspora voting, and make sure that we begin to lobby them so that they can pass the law where we are going to allow diaspora to vote. Until we get there, like I said, we can only be doing a talk show on our social media.
Yeah, the voice of the diaspora cannot be underestimated, and can only be emphasized and made loud enough for people to realize the importance of millions of voices which are financially, intellectually, morally, spiritually, physically strong, and can help us build a very strong defense system, starting from a capital we are going to choose in the mother continent, Africa, which we can use in defending our interests. Because why are we easily penetratable to this day? Because we don't have a defense system. People cannot respect you when you don't have a defense system. You can have the knowledge of having defense, but if you don't have the structures and the intellectual, practical capacity, the question is, with all the knowledge we have in the diaspora, we are not using it well. But how can we use it well? By doing what we are doing right now and implementing it practically. Like somebody told me that the young man we are considering as savior right now was trained outside. He was not trained in Burkina Faso. He was trained outside, right? Which means at a certain point in time, he was a diasporan. And he is my hero right now. I would even like him to be the president of the United Sovereign States of Africa. Oh, I'm coming to the question. So, my brother, if we are to use the power of the diaspora to change the ball game now in Africa as a continent, what do you think could be the modus operandi?
Well, as I said that at the beginning, that in 2003, that the African Union realized exactly all you've just said, realized that they acknowledge that the economic, social, and intellectual power of the Africans living outside the continent is huge. And so, because of that, they recognize the diaspora as the sixth region of Africa. I think it's very clear. Now, what it means is that the modus operandi, like you said, Mr. Kinsley, that we should be able to organize ourselves outside the continent of Africa. For instance, we have the African diaspora, sixth region Europe, African diaspora, sixth region America, and so on and so forth in across these other five continents of Africa. We have not been able to, come together as Africans to be able to take a maximum advantage of this. Yes, it is nice we form a defense structure in Africa. It is nice, we do remittance, financial power. Question is, how do you want to organize it? Who is going to lead that organization? And I think that the African Sixth region has actually given us, that structure. Again, I agree with you. We need more knowledge on that. We need people who are going to dedicate their time to make sure that these structures are stronger, and we can now use that stronger. We can expand it. No idea is cast in stone. Once we start with that, we can expand it, and with that, we can carry out whatever we're going to do. I still think that the Africans in diaspora need to get more organized. If we don't, if we're not well organized and well structured, we cannot help our continent when we are not also organized here. So I think the first step is to see how we can key into this African Union sixth region, recognized by the African Union, and also recognized by the international community, to begin to see how we can use that as a structure and to begin to have a, both political and social and economic intervention in Africa.
Yes, I have a question. Thanks for being here. And me too. Like I call myself, I'm a diasporian, and like you say, we as a diasporian, we need to organize. I'm sorry a little bit because we organized since I think, and me, I realized that this organizing takes our time because at the end we cannot, we have a lack of information. We have not a lack of organizing. I'm sorry, we organize ourselves in so many things. Me as a woman, as a Black woman here in Germany based, I did a lot of things, organization and meetings and all these kinds. I enter and try to speak their language, but what I realized, and even yesterday I went to the museum and I realized I cannot dismantle the slave master's house with their language, because at the end I do the work and still they have the pronouns, because they are writing things in their books. They are writing things, what I did, what we do in our organization, but their demand after and we have done a lot of decolonization works, but at the end, at this street, and that is what is my purpose here in this room today, because I hear always power on the people, because when we realize our powers on us, and yes, maybe this organization needs to be, and what kind of things we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have so much things, but we cannot enter them without money. For example, I'm living here in Cologne, and Cologne is like they call themselves, Cologne means colony, and the colony of the old Rome, because they want to demand the old Rome Catholic Church rules and everything. So they want to be rebel. And how to come out of it? They create their own system. They create their own money system. And it's my question is now, how can you be sure that your organization in terms of representing Afro-diasporian to other Afro-diasporian in the diaspora, because Germany already write in their official books, we are just 1 million Afro-diasporian in Germany. So, and you claim now other numbers. When we talk about these numbers, when we can, when somebody talk to our people here in the diasporian, because actually our people are busy with lawyers, our people are actually busy with getting jobs, with all these kind of things. And we have people in this area when we open the doors. That's my question. Well,
Yvonne, thank you very much. I can feel you. I feel your passion. I want to let you know that everything is possible. Depends on what we intend to do. Let me use the opportunity to tell you that I started the first Black magazine in the history of Germany called African Heritage Magazine. It is because of that we need to have a platform to tell our own story. And that is why we need to have a platform where we are going to organize that. African Heritage Magazine was launched in 2004. 2004, when it was first launched. I hope I'm not mixing up the date. Now I realized that having a magazine alone is not enough. I started, even up to today, I have the longest running black centric TV program in the history of Germany. It's called Africa Outlook in TDTV in Hamburg. Now, all these are not enough. What do I mean by that enough? I realized that to be able to also make a meaningful change in Germany, you need to also get involved politically. So I also got involved politically and became the second Black person to be elected into the Hamburg Integration Beirat, where one of the things we did was also to write a migration concept for the state of Hamburg. Now, let me expand it outside Hamburg. I'm also privileged to join one of the first Black parliamentarians in Germany. It's called Elumbo from Congo, who became a parliamentarian in Bremen and one of the spokespersons for the Parliament of Bremen. With Elumbo and a couple of us also in the diaspora, we're able to support Dr. Karamba, who also became one of the first real Black African that also was elected to the German parliamentarian in Berlin. Then we go on and on. Just few months ago, Irene Appiah from Ghana also became the first African to be elected into the Parliament of Hamburg. Now, before now, one of the leading figures that also helped us to organize ourselves diasporally is called Dr. Joy Alimazon, who was then working for Engagement Global. With the help of Joy, we're able to form what we call Afro Mandat Träger, as of it is called today. The Afro Mandat Träger connects all the Africans in Germany who hold political mandates across different political parties, whether it's Green, whether it's SPD, of course, no AFD. But apart from the AFD, all political parties that have African mandate also came together, including the former Dr. Fofana, who was also an African in European Parliament. There has been movement politically, moving out from where we are, to the new frontier. And the African Träger mandate also address this issue of colonialism. How can we begin to position the issues of the Africans across Germany politically? Because while we are doing our best, Yvonne, like people like you, the street power, putting all the necessary pressure, we also need a political aspect of it to be able to make sure that we have our speakers, our voices in different political platforms that also begin to bring out these issues that is important to us. So yes, it's not always enough to stop organizing. I understand that this organization takes time. So while I make mention of the African Union, African diaspora, it is even a problem on its own because it is not well organized. But again, we should not stop pushing because different organizations we believe in are not working enough. The individual effort, you put up your individual effort within your small circle. There's a proverb in Nigeria: if everybody sweep their father's compound, the whole of the town is clean. So why, Yvonne, continue to do what you're doing? Don't give up. And continue to organize yourself in a group while we see how we can interconnect, with these different initiatives, connect with the Mandat Trigger, connect with the African Union, African Diaspora, and together we hopefully, I can tell you, when I came into this country almost 30 years ago, things are not the same. Things have changed. Well, I wouldn't say 100% positively, but there has been the consciousness of the Africans in Germany that has improved over time. Now, at the age of 56, we are looking at people like Yvonne, people like you, who has the generation of TikTok, the generation of social media, to use this instrument we don't have or we did not have our time to move this movement further. I think it was I've forgotten the guy who made that quotation, that every generation has an obligation to fulfill its destiny or betray it. We have done our best during our time, even whether if our best is good enough or not. It's left for history to judge. So, but I will encourage people like to give up, to begin to look further to see how you can connect with all these initiatives across Germany, and hopefully we'll be able to get the African diaspora that we need. I'll rest my case there.
Me too. I want to rest my place now for other people who have questions. But one of the things is like I wrote structure. So now they write it in their books. We did many decolonial works, but at the end we write the books. The books are somewhere, but nobody listened to us. Nobody knows. Even you don't know me, I don't know you. But the German ones, they know what we are doing. So I just want to know or make sure that all this kind of work, what we are doing, have benefit for all of us, not for some people. Thanks.
In Hamburg, I can give you an example. In Hamburg, we have one Millie Aj. They have been doing some fantastic job across Germany, and most of the colonial names in Berlin and also in Hamburg has been renamed. We have we have the UN years of African decade, where they also have to support the people of African descent, to be able to achieve all these programs. And like I said, success has been made in certain quarters. All we need to do is to make sure that we are connected across Germany and to make sure that we collaborate with our work so that it's not going to be too heavy on one particular person. I rest my case.
Can I have a question? Okay.
I don't really have a question. Hi, Kenneth. I think we know ourselves from a different platform. I really don't have a question. I'm just glad that the people have now kind of streamlined themselves and the discussions are going to the directions in which I'd encouraged Afrobiz, that after the 30th of April, what next? And I'm one of those people that have, for the last 30 years, I'm also here in Germany, been trying to streamline the diaspora remittances after the first research that was done with the Western Union, in which they found out that the remittances back in our countries, but this one they did it everywhere, but I still was able to just extract the African remittances were 10 times more than the development aid or even the aids in as a total to the continent. And from then on, I've been trying to streamline or to get people that we streamline the diaspora remittances to be much more effective. And I've always found blocks and being blockages. And these blockages, like Yvonne said, is coming from from the people that are, let's just say, the Germans that are here, who know more about us than we know more about them. I want to give another example in which Cameroonian, I think this is a Cameroonian, came up with a way of trying to streamline the diaspora remittances and approached an organization, I don't want to say the name, And what came out is that they took over his idea and went out and sold it and went to the government and blocked again the idea of trying that the diaspora has this streamlining of the diaspora remittances, even in terms of us voting. Kenyans agreed somehow. I don't know how they managed to do that, but they agreed in 2023. We voted in a very funny way here in the diaspora. I'm not sure whether it was digital or manual, but it doesn't matter. It was a diaspora. Votings took place. I'm not sure whether the votings was also factored in at the IEBC. I'm not sure. But what I'm trying to say is that I find it is very important that we should maybe stop looking too big and start small, and let the smallness build and make the bigger results show. I think it is, for me, much more important. I'm a person who always wants to start with the foundation and not the roof. A lot of times I hear people talking here. We are talking not only about the roof, you're talking about the sky. Nowadays, you're talking about the drones. They don't even have fountains. I wish you could all look at what can I be able to do me personally, and not try and see, because Kenneth is very much on the political line, that I also go and I try to take over because I want to shine more than Kenneth. It's not my line, but maybe I've got a line that can complement what you're doing. How can we complement each other? And above the teller, the plate, the rim of the plate. When I say the rim of the plate, it means Kenneth comes from Nigeria, comes from Kenya. We're both here in the diaspora. Our enemy is one, and they look at us not as Nigerian and Kenyan, but as one. How can we use that? How can we leverage that and be able to start something? I was going to now use with German. How can we start that? And we do pilot projects that we are doing maybe concurrently, and see how they are working in Nigeria, how the environment is receiving it in Kenya, how they, we are seeing it. It's a small project. How are we doing it? And each and every person here is specialized in something. How can you be able to use your specialty in a small way, with the small amount of money that you have, to start off with the notion that it can be scaled later? This is what I prefer to listen to, because fact is, the multinationals in the countries that we are in have got so much power that they can leverage our executive and our legislative arms in 0 minutes. These are multinationals that go over and above what our laws are. But if we decide to take over that, then we can be able to be the ones to determine what we do with our laws and our legislatives, executives, etc. So that is what I feel. Let's start small. Whoever can start as small as they can and have a feeling this is going to impact my immediate community, with the linkage, with the bridge, connecting, I don't know what, but do it. Do it, because if you approach the diaspora and you say, we are looking for investors, we can be able to also organize ourselves as investors, help your business scale. I don't know, but I think that is where we are going to do it without going to the master's house. Because like I've wrote here on the comment section, it's a book, by the way, I've just written in the comment section, I've got to read it. His master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Never. So if you're still looking to go and dismantle the master's tools, they will not dismantle his house. We have to create our own tools and our own house. So I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to for Laban, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a statement rather. The thing is, education is the key. A lot of the people who are contributing to this very significant economical benefit is not aware of the value of their efforts. You understand? The diaspora is, when you look into European countries, Western countries and things like that, the entirety of the social services, what you would consider social services. In America, it's called welfare. In Britain, it's social services. The entirety of that is rest on the burden of the diaspora. We are the ones who take care of prescriptions, hospital bills, educations, a lot of cases, even house building, housings and things like that. You know, it's a broad-based thing in a lot of jurisdiction. Remittance contribution is stronger than the private sector, yet the private sector has got more influence within the government than remittance. You understand me? Awareness in the sense that people organize, you know, in a minor sense, just like with Ibrahim Traore the other day, we create this awareness through social media and things like that and organize so that people understand that on a particular day, we're going to do this. You know, send a message and the message will be clear. This is what we are demanding. We are demanding a system to be put in place where diasporan can have a say whether or not in voting or influencing policies and things like that. It is possible because income is what influence government. Yeah, it's just understanding it and putting it into effective, actions that was gonna benefit the cause that the diaspora desire. You get me? But yes, it can be done. It should be done. It needs to be done. You know, other than the means by which it could be done, it varies. You know, but starting from small, like what Race Think said, is a good way to start. But educating the people on what the value of their effort is a good place to start as well. And that's my arrest. Thank you.
Oh, well, something. I think I listened to all the last speakers, especially my sister from Kenya. The fact is that I think I saw the comments also from Yvonne. We can talk about our leaders, but at the end of the day, it is the people that determine how things need to be run. Yes, it is possible. You can imagine if we have have let's even break it down so that we don't build the skyscraper without the foundation. Let's go down to Nigeria. We have over 20 million Nigerians in diaspora. If each and every one of us just contribute 10 euro each, you know how much that will come up to. And that can fund any programs we have to do. The question is, who will bear the cat? Are we able to do that? Like you said, yes, we Africans can come and fund this thing ourselves if you want to, but you need to organize it. There need to be, a structure that accept this money. There have to be a way of collecting this money and then, implementing this money where we have it. I will say again, like the last speaker said, or last two speakers said, I have African women in business, for instance, an organization that has to do with African women in Europe, that's starting from African women in Germany, where they come together, they talk about businesses, they talk about how they can invest in Kenya, in Nigeria, in Uganda, in Tanzania, and they are doing extremely very well. We have another group of also, I think it's from also Kenyan also again, that they have to do with immobilien at real estate, investment in real estate in Kenya, trying to see how they can raise money from different individuals and build houses and then. So I think we have individuals who are actually already doing great things in their respective countries. Kenya seems, is leading the world in high tech. Before even the before even we start having a monetary transfer in Germany, where within seconds you can transfer money from one account to the other. Kenya have already started it long ago, and it's driven by also from people from diaspora. And so we have also this initiative. Maybe it's not going as fast as we think it is, but we have the diasporan who are also doing extremely very well in their respective countries. So the question is, we'll take a little step once one at a time. But networking is very, very important. It is important to know how are they doing it in Kenya, how are they doing it in Nigeria, how has the Africa Coast or the Challenge Cameroon, how have they done that? Can Challenge Cameroon and Nigerians in diaspora work together to find out how they can also interchange ideas and the rest of them? Until we begin to reconnect, until we begin to work on the same boat, starting from different client individuals, it's still going to be challenging to raise that money the way you are looking at it. Is it possible? Yes. But first, we need to organize ourselves in a way that we're able to put this money together to have a real effect and a real change. I rest.
Can I please make a statement?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I've waited for quite a while, and it's like they've asked all my questions, and he has also answered them.
Sorry about it, sir.
Yeah, it's all right. It's fine. I mean, the main thing is for me to have answers, and then you're giving good answers, which that's okay for me. I'll just have a little contribution here now. So I think I understand what you mean by diasporas like coming together and getting organized. The problem again we have is that when you want to organize anything that will give back to your homeland in a way that is very formal, just like you guys have already said, you always have the government of wherever you stay fighting it because they understand that that's like giving power back to Africa. And then when Africa stands on her feet, definitely the other part of the world is going to fall, or let's say the quality of life they live is definitely going to drop. So my problem again is sometimes you can also organize that because there's already what we call the black tax now, which is like everybody's remitting to his family, which is almost like a big remittance already if you calculate that. But all of that goes back to Africa and comes back as nothing. Instead, they levy even more fees on you. They get barriers, they call you. They get things that are not even important, they call you. So how can we help? I mean, how can we actually like try to organize them at home, just like we have government that are not working for us? How can we have those institutions that we can trust to work for us before we even think of remitting anything? Because we could remit to AU and they will use it to fund even the Western agenda. So I think most of the problem we have is not just we here, because we here even understand most of these things more than the people at home. I'll tell you one thing. I thought I used to be an activist in Nigeria, but I wasn't until I traveled and then I saw that my color was a problem. Like me walking in the street, people looked at me and see me like a different person altogether. I could have like hatred from maybe a Yoruba person or person from another tribe in Nigeria, but I don't consider it as hurtful as it is when you walk in an environment and everybody's looking at you and you really look like you're from somewhere else, which is not supposed to be, just because the world has been divided into black and white, and then we are on the part of the black and you are on the part of the white, and everywhere you go, you definitely have that hatred because you were divided onto the other side. So how can we now be able to help our people at home or at back in Nigeria or in Africa to begin to like have institutions that we can trust, so we can willingly remit. There are a lot of things that people can organize here and remit back home, but when you look at what you're remitting for, is not the purpose will probably be for trivial things, for enjoyment, and then they will not come back to even work anything. Because I always say that for every African country that can stand up to this imperial, what's it called now, these colonial powers, and develop their country and and empower their people and respect their people, definitely those people are going to get respect anywhere they travel to in the world. So if we can have a country to model as an example and have the government working just like Abraham Traore is doing, and then his people are fed, and then they have enough money and enough respect, they will be respected every part of the world. And we can also channel our money there because we know it's going to be used for the good cause. So how can we do that? That's my question. Like, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Musa. You, Mansa Musa. Sorry, I mean that's what is on your screen. I think you made a very valid point. Uh, Innovation is diffusional, which means you can start from A, move to B, C, D, F. The two examples you gave so far, the president of Senegal and also the president of Burkina Faso. I mean, somebody mentioned before that they were trained outside their country, so they were once a diaspora. So that's a good one. I had the privilege of going back to Nigeria in 2023, sorry, to contest for a political position in Nigeria. I ran for the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, trying to represent the people of Delta North. Of course, like everybody know, I didn't succeed. Um, it's part of exactly what you just raised. Why did I do that? As president of Nigerians in Diaspora organization, we have talked about diaspora, being the first movers, the change we want to see. And I believe that we cannot also keep talking without putting our talk into action. So, of course, like I mentioned before, we led delegation, to the electoral body in Nigeria. We led delegation to the National Assembly. We lobbied senators and the rest of them. So at the end of the day, we didn't get what we want, but there was a move, to create electronic voting, which allowed most of us to go back. Now, without the pressure, again, I'm trying to reach out to people like Yvonne and Co, who has probably are not very happy that things are not going on as quickly as possible. With the pressure of Nigerians in diaspora, like every other country, the National Assembly bowed into at least making some moves of electronic voting, and also, like you rightly said, leadership, having a transformational leadership. And it was what led most of us to believe that we can influence a government where our remittances will count, like you rightly said. Unfortunately, we saw the impact of the electronic voting. We saw that the first round of the election, the BIVA, the electronic transmission, made sense. But of course, our political class were smarter than we calculated for. And the subsequent election, all of a sudden, the BIVA stopped working. And again, they were turned back to where we started. But again, this first initial victory came because of the pressure we have piled on. My answer to that, which you've actually well summarized, the German says, "Hope dies last." We cannot afford to give up. Take two examples in Nigeria now. Sorry, I'm using Nigeria as an example because that's the country where I'm from, and that is where I think that out of every 10 Africans, they say 6, 7 are from Nigeria. So probably, like I said, these things are diffusional, and they might help a lot. Now look at the incidents that happened just a few months ago in Nigeria in succession. The first lady went to the School of Nursing in Abo, Delta State, and then the normal psychophancy, started. Now our Mama Bidiso and the rest of them. I mean, nobody takes the pleasure when our first lady is being embarrassed. That's not what I'm advocating for. But the individual in that place who wants to sing praises just because they want some political favor, the nursing students refused to go back, saying, "Your Mama Bidis, not our Mama." They were very clear on that. It's a signal that we could make a difference when we really want to. The second incident just happened in Rivers State just a few days ago, where the self-imposed administrator of Rivers State, the wife wanted to address the women as the first lady on behalf of the wife of the president. The women stood up and they walked out on them, saying Either we have our elected, representative address us, or we're not going to listen, and they all walked out. So what am I trying to say is that we see what is happening in Guinea-Bissau, we see what is happening in Senegal, and it is also leading most African countries. You saw what happened in the Kenyan riot, where they for months they refused to back down, which led a lot of changes and the rest of them. So we will continue that. We're not going to stop. But if we, the diasporan, cannot put our money where our mouth is and begin to get involved in Nigeria, get involved in Kenya, get involved in Cameroon and the rest of them, and begin to drive the change we want, it's going to be difficult to build that country. But like I said, one step at a time. Let us keep the pressure on. Let us keep talking, and let us learn the best practice from wherever is going to come in Africa. Let us realize that we all have one single enemy, and we all have, as a people of African of people of color, that what happens to one African country affects what happens in other African countries. When we begin to conscientize ourselves with the digital age we are now, I am sure, I'm very, very optimistic that Africa will not remain this in the next future. I rest my case.
Yeah, peace to the panel, peace to everyone listening, peace to you host, and peace to the guest. You've basically also answered most of my questions. So let me try to readjust it. How important would you say, because you have a lot of people in the diaspora that are into tech, dealing with things such as AI, coding, and things like that. How important would you say that it is for there to be some type of organization where people can basically come together, possibly form a type of social media, and also actually involving the continent as well with grassroots movements on the continent, and involving children as far as also teaching them?
Fantastic, fantastic. That's a very, very important question. I was on another social media event, and I met one Nigerian from the northern Africa, from northern states called Emerson. Amos, it's called Amos. He started up a digital learning program, teaching, Africans, not only Nigerians, mathematics online in a very simple version, so to say. And again, I know there are a lot of these grounded Africans who are doing very well in tech world. Like most of the people in NASA, in even in AI in US, in Europe, they are some of them are basically Africans. But because the nature of the diaspora we have, I don't know where you're from, sorry, but if you visit any of the Nigerian diaspora program, sometimes you might not even want to come back there again. The language they use, they are very insultive, which I think is not only, basically only to Nigeria, basically in most of the African countries. So most guys that are high-tech guys, who basically have so much to offer, they don't feel comfortable in such environment. And so when they attend such meetings once or twice, they will leave. They will never come back again. So what is important is that we need, such African tech group to see how they can come together without, having to go through this big organization where they can, we should have by now an African version of TikTok. We should have by now an African version of Facebook. We should have by now, of course, I see, so many, small tech, applications from African. I mentioned the Kenyan, tech group with financing, which was, a global success, so to say. We want to see more of that, not only in the finance world, but like you rightly said, in other areas of the living for the African. I think it is very, very important. That question is very, very important, that we have to encourage our tech guys to forget the languages, to forget this big organization where they don't feel comfortable, to begin to look for applications that can bring the tech guys together, and to begin to see how they can use tech to solve most of the African problems. If we can do that, that would be very, very fantastic. We have, some little applications currently, that whether it's from UK, from US, sending money to to Africa and the rest of them. I understand most of those applications are actually owned by Africans. But like one of my sisters said, yes, even though they are owned by Africans, you need to operate with European laws, to be able to do that. We are hoping to have such high-tech people who are going to probably leverage on the African Union to be able to have it as the gateway, the Alibaba of Africa, so to say, where we can do our business, where we can do our trade. We have currently now the African Free Trade Zone, where our tech guys, how can they come together to develop a tech platform where Africans can trade together, whether it's a coffee from Kenya and whether it's cocoa from Nigeria? How can we have these tech guys come together and set up? So I think it's very crucial. I think it's one of the most crucial phase of Africa we need to get into, to be able to actualize this dream of the Africans. Otherwise, our corrupt political elites, will never allow such a good thing that are going to weaken people politically, economically, so to say. So we need to look beyond our government and begin to use technology as a means to advance all these programs we are all putting online. And I think I totally agree that it's necessary. And I will urge you, I don't know whether you asked that question because you're on the tech line, people like you are needed to help us, to awaken our tech guys to begin to look for a tech solution for African problems. I rest my case.
Oh, wait. Host, I just wanted to say something real quick. It
Good
won't.
evening to everybody in the panel.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's not going to be long. I just wanted to add on to what the brother said, because the whole thing with the, like, when you're getting into tech, and there's like a lot of people, like I'm from Brooklyn, but I'm currently in Berlin, and so I met a lot of Africans out here that are in tech, and what he's saying is true, because when you're in this tech field, it's a very racist field, because they're even jealous. They don't really want us to get into it, because they know the power of this. When you get into tech, cybersecurity, things along these lines, not only is just that money, but that's power. And I land my plane with that.
Okay, good evening to all of us. I have a question in relationship with the financing of the African Union. Don't you think that the African countries can finance the African Union without the help of the West or China? Because we used to believe that Burkina Faso was a very poor country, one of the poorest in Africa. We know that because Traoré took power through a coup d'etat, most of the Western countries stopped giving aid to Burkina Faso. But we could see the progress in the country that he has done with the limited resources they have. So don't you think that we as African countries can finance our African Union even without the help of the diaspora and the West? That is my question, sir. Thank you.
You're absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, the African Union is not financed by the West. The African Union is financed by the African Union themselves. But the challenge, like you rightly said, I'll give you an example. The headquarters of African Union was actually built by the Chinese, donated to the African Union free of charge. But there's an implication to that. I can't confirm this. I don't know if it is true. I'm not in the tech world. But they found out also that there was a time they found out that the African Union was blocked during construction.
You are right.
Which means
I read about it.
Fantastic. So which means most of their plans are actually being known before they are executed. And so that is the danger of accepting, free ride when you want to look at the issue of Africa. But that said, to be honest with you, apart from the few examples we have in Africa, sorry to say, most of African leaders are corrupt. And they're not only corrupt, they are incompetent. And so I don't know how to put it. They have they have what it takes to finance the African Union. As a matter of fact, they are mandated to contribute a certain percentage of their GDP to run the African Union. But again, corruption, like one former president said, either corruption is going to kill Africa or Africa is going to kill corruption. Depends on which one comes first.
Buhari. Okay, I want to give a follow-up question. Okay, I think one of us proposed that maybe Diaspora can finance it, maybe the host. Okay, you talk about the major problem in Africa, which is corruption. So we the Diaspora now, if we have the money and want to send it to Africa for the leaders to finance or to support in the African Union, don't you think that this the same corruption will still play a negative role in managing this money? That is my second question, sir.
Yes, what we thought was possible, which is still possible. You see, African, because of our traditional value and the rest of them, we need to also look beyond the traditional way of doing things for now. What do I mean by that? During our time in Nigerians in diaspora, we had a meeting with the government of central bank. You know, I think it was one of the deputy governors who was in charge of finance and the rest of them. And he told us that, hey, if we need to really begin to be taken serious in the diaspora, that we should, you know, have to institute our own money transfer, you know, platform and app. And actually, he gave us all what is required, you know, for the central bank to approve that. Again, within NIDO, my organization, within interest and the rest of them, it was killed. But what my question, my answer was actually not because of the story. If we have the diaspora money transfer system, again, let me use Nigeria as an example, which I've always used. And we said that, okay, for every 100 euro you transfer, or for every 50 euro you transfer, you keep out 1 euro for African investment, whatever you need to call it or you want to call it. And you can imagine 25 million or 100 million Africans using this particular platform because they believe that 1 euro is better to have 1 euro, you know, put in a special account, which is going to be a development account. We can now, as diaspora, without the government interference, purely on high tech, like I was discussing with the last guy that asked the question on the high tech, through a high tech, we can have this money, this visual banking. We can have this visual, you know, chambers of commerce and industry, where we have a group of people, a group of experts in diaspora who can take applications, you know, from, you know, projects that are going to be run and supervised by the diaspora, but they can be implemented from anywhere in the world, and grant them soft loan to be able to finance that without having to go through the so-called masters or going to the African Union. So yes, we can have such platform, initiate such platform without necessarily government interference. Of course, we need government licenses and approvals, which can easily be gotten through lobby and advocacy. But once it is gotten, those we can use those high tech, you know, to do the project management without government interference. So yes, it is possible. That's
Thank
why
you very much.
and high tech is very, very important in all this. Thank you, man. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to start by thanking you for this wonderful platform. I will first embarrass myself by asking a question to our host, to our guest. I don't know, sir, are you the one who was like, you wanted to run for senatorial election and you were like arrested at your home?
And no, I wasn't arrested, but yes, I was the one who wanted to run for election in Nigeria. Yes.
My goodness. Yeah, I saw the video. I think it was in 2023, and I was like, you know, it was like, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for being here today with us. You know,
Thank you so
like
much.
I say, I'm a Cameroonian based also in Germany, and I've been following, I mean, what you've been especially advocating for Nigeria at a political stand is something that is like, and someone who has a very strong diaspora background. It's a kind of a move with someone who has a lot of ideas to change his country. And I think Nigeria, like they say, is the giant of Africa. If Nigeria should change, a lot of things are going to move in Africa. If you look at the musical industry in the world now, you will not find any serious media not playing Nigerian music, at least after every 1 hour. So if we can move in the cultural industry like music, film, it means even in the political arena we can also move stones. So like I want to ask my question by making a proposal. Like Afrobeat, what is Beats Germany? What he's doing here? He's organizing a platform where you have African and even Black Americans and Caribbeans coming to rest their case here. So like, what is your take? Because look at after the mobilization, right up to the 30th of April 2025, behind Ibrahim Traore. If we can harness this energy that is just hanging around, because it shows that a lot of Black people all over the world, Africans, they identify themselves as people who are fighting the same battle. We have a common enemy. But if we do not really harness ourselves and try to organize ourselves, I think we're going to miss it. Because like this divide and rule issue, that's what they do. Like my country, Cameroon, the diaspora actually fought and they gave us the right to vote. But at the same time, they came and they turn around, they say, if you do not have the resident permit, you can't vote. If you have the nationality of another country, you can't vote. So I think we need people like you who can. I think someone has a mic open. Yeah, if people like you who can like put in some strategies to actually bring us together. We shouldn't be talking about the financial platform, like how we're going to contribute, but then to first bring Blacks and Africans together at the diaspora level, and if we can fight and we can tackle the the politicians who are very corrupt back home. Because if we want to involve the politicians, they're going to fail us. So I think people like you can organize. What strategy do you think you can put in place? Because if we just talk and we don't do something, it's not going to really help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I have two very great Cameroonians. I think I mentioned them when I started my introduction. We have Joy Alamazon, who is currently one of the Black mayor in Germany. He has been very active in that political space. I have Kennedy Tomanta, who is also a Cameroonian, who was actually one of the first, to brought out the idea of the African Union African Diaspora Sit Zone. My my take is African Union African Diaspora Sit Zone is actually the best platform um, to harness the Africans together as a central one body. But having said that, realizing that we have differences culturally, even within Nigeria, we have differences. I'm sure without Africa, we have differences. We can begin to, have a subgroup like the tech industries, like you just give example of the music industry. No government interference with Nollywood film or Nollywood music. It evolves itself naturally, so that we can be able to, have this discussion we are having today about this. So I think Afrobeat, like you just mentioned, Afrobeat is taking up this initiative, to reach out to the Africans, and begin to have a concrete idea on how to actualize those platforms. Africa is huge. The hugeness of Africa also has to do with the hugeness of our problem, and everybody has also different ideas and the rest of them. And so, what we need to begin to see is to look at the initiatives that we think are important for the group of Africans, and align ourselves with those initiatives, one way or the other. Again, the way we have the Nollywood industries, and I mentioned that we have what we call the African Union, African Mandate Trigger in Germany, that brings in all the political actors in the political space in Germany. So maybe we're going to also look at the African tech world, where we're going to bring in all the African tech world together. We're going to look at the African media practitioners in Germany or Europe. And so we can begin to have these pockets of ideas and probably have a one big convention where people are going to have an idea and see exactly the ways of implementing those things, either bit by bit, individually or as a group. I don't think anybody will give you a smoking gun to say this is the shoot that will kill, bring out all the answers to everything. Africa is diverse, so it's our problem, and so it's also our need. But I think once we begin to engage in such a platform, like you rightly already mentioned, and begin to judge, we'll begin to come up with ideas how we can come together to to help our platform. So I totally agree with you. There's a need to not to give up, because I know that there are people who have been doing this for the past 30 years, across. Remember my sister from Kenya, who has been around for the past 30 years and has also doing her bit. But we can't afford to stop. We should just keep on bringing out one initiative or the other, and we'll see what works. But like you rightly said, or the last speaker said, we have a very, very, wind blowing in Africa today. The Burkina Faso president and also the Senegalese president. There seems to be a new light of Africa, and I think we'll do everything possible to ride on that wave. I rest my case.
Yes, can you rephrase back the question for me? Yes. Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. Yes. What rephrase back again for me? Yeah, I had to come in the clear so I can hear you a bit more clearly. Oh, yes. Um, One question. I would like to know how can we as diasporans come together to orchestrate a strategic structure to which we can organize our resources to the betterment of Africa. Can you respond to that?
Okay. I think you see, I think we've actually touched many on that we can leverage on the structure of the African Union, African diaspora, but we can also leverage on different regional organization like Nigerian Diaspora Organization, NIDO, like the Challenge Cameroon, like the Kenyan associations also in Germany and the rest of them. There might be a need for us to begin to, have more strategic interaction within all these organizations to see what works best for them and what works best for other ones, and see whether we can, out of this constellation, come up with something that is going to be, Pan-Africanism in a way that it works for the whole of Africa. But like I said, in absence of any strategic point, the African Union, African diaspora seems to be the most strategic, global diaspora organization that can help us to actualize our Pan African, activities, so to say. Well, no, her position is not a monarch, but also she didn't appoint herself. Let's be honest and fair. She was appointed by the federal government of Nigeria, and I think she's entitled to 4-year term, subject to renewal, making probably 4 years or 8 years, as the case may be. I think I have to check the tenure of her office. So no, she didn't appoint herself, and I think she's also she's there at the within the constitution of appointment, and so she has not personally done anything wrong on that. That's number one. Number two, there are processes that led to NIDCOM. What led to NITCOM was the diasporan. Before now, how did the diasporan came on board? Before His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo instituted the diaspora network, and we have so many Nigerians that that led to President OBJ decided to bring all these grouping together to have one super organization that can speak for the diaspora, which is NIDO. And so through this organization, we advocated for us to be represented in the government. We advocated for us to have an input from that, and based on that, we have the Diaspora Commission Bill that was passed under the Bukola Saraki, presidency, so to say, of the Senate presidency. So it is this diaspora bill that defines how a CEO of the diaspora and NITCOM should be appointed. And so it was the bill that gave the government the right to appoint her. Now, where most of us are missing the impact of NITCOM is that the board should have been constituted in a way that gives the diaspora majority of the board members. And to answer the question you have said, which will help us make the necessary impact and ask the necessary question that we needed to be done. So far, unfortunately, the board has not been constituted. Again, in fairness to her, she's not the one to constitute the board for herself. It's the federal government that has to constitute the board. So I think the federal government has failed us so far in the diaspora that they have failed to constitute the board. So all we need to do as diaspora, as Nigerians in diaspora, is to make our voice heard, to speak loud, to carry out advocacy and lobby group to make sure that the board is constituted. So that is why probably you're not feeling the board, the impulse of NITCOM because we don't have the right constitution of the board, which is the responsibility of the federal government to do, which they have failed to do it so far. I rest my case. Well, there's a law governing every organization. The law says that there's going to be a board. If you have a board, you have about 12, maybe I have about 19 board members. Out of that 19 board members, about 16 are members of diaspora. That is the right channel with which we can be able to check her. That's the right channel with which we can be able to send our representative. So until the government constitutes this board, we have a limited way to enforce that our right. So we need to have more advocacy and reach out to the government and make sure that the board is constituted. Any other way, I don't have how any other way can be effective, to making that happen.
I'm here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, concerning Africa, this is something we have to really work hard to make it possible. I'm originally from Ghana, and I think Africa unification is a very important thing that we all have to work hard towards it to make sure that it happens. Yeah. Most of the time, this is what happens to be the problem. Hello, are we here? Yeah. All right. For question, I don't think I have a question. I only have a contribution that I also want to contribute towards African issue. As I said earlier, I'm originally from Ghana. I think what will... All right. I think I think I heard a bit of our guest today happens to be a politician. Well, I'll channel my question to be on appeal that wherever that wherever that we find ourselves as leaders happen to be by elected or by revolution, we should know that now the youth want total liberation of Africa. So my brother, it's just an adapt that we shouldn't just say things and then when we get into power, then it becomes a different thing. So it's just an adapt that I want to add to what you said. I wish you well in all. And as you are with us, I wish that, Africa will be what we all want to be. Thank you very much. I think that's what I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
All right, all right. My question will be, my brother. Nigeria is one of the major problems in terms of Africa. This thing, it happens to be Nigeria and Ghana, but then now Ghana, it seems like we are directing ourselves to the to the right channel by having President Muhammad currently. Now Nigeria happens to be the focus. So, my brother, what do you think will be the 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 bits that the youth can do to identify the problem of Nigeria itself? What do you think the youth can do to identify the problem or to solve the problem, if not all, 60% of it, going forward in future to have the total solution of it? What do you think we can do?
It might interest you to know that I'm not in government yet. I'm not in a ruling party. I'm in the opposition. One.
Okay.
But I'm happy to tell you that during the NSAS movement, that I think Mr. Sampson can also confirm that I basically coordinated the activities of Nigerians in Europe to make sure that we support the youth, the youth to have the right to protest,
Very good.
to protect bad government. That's number one. And number two, my political party, which is African Democratic Congress, by the name, it's not Nigeria, it's African Democratic Congress, because we believe that the problem of Africa is the same, with different, country uniqueness, but yeah, it's the same, good governance, the opportunity for the youth. And so my political party happens to be the only political party in Nigeria where we have 35% reserved for the youth and 35% reserved for women. That's the only country, the only political party in Nigeria who can do that, because we appreciate the roles of the youth. We appreciate that we have a modern, stronger generation. If you look at governments across the world, apart from very few exceptions, like Donald Trump and the rest of them, most of the prime ministers and presidents are very people under 40. So we understand that it's important to have the youth. That said, we have also seen some youth who were, elected under the youth platform in Nigeria to go to the parliament and represent the interests of the youth. And after only one section in the parliament, they decamped from their party and joined the ruling party and joined also the old structures and the rest of them. And so at the end of the day, they have betrayed the mandate of the youth who has given them that youth. So
Very good.
the youth also have they have also to have a platform where they should also learn to call out those youths who use their mandate or who wrote on the back of their mandate and only come out to betray that mandate. So it's not only one side, it's also the other side. We should also begin to ask ourselves critically, as people who are pro-youth, to ask ourselves, are the youth of today, whether it's in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Cameroon, are we willing to live up to the things that we believe in and fight for? This is the question we also need to ask ourselves.
Right. And Afro, can I just stitch in because I don't want him to go? He's a very important figure because he's an opposition leader or member of of Nigeria, and since he possesses great potential of becoming a leader, um, I I do hope that we can at least make most of these organizations, as you say, the youths are representative in parliament. Now, I do hope that in your foreseeable future, you can make representation for the youth to be anonymous rather than controlled by the government. Because oftentimes, when the government controls these systems, they infiltrate them and ensure that they manipulate the minds of these young people to fall to toe the line and to fall under the structure of government. So I do hope, as a potential leader of Nigeria, can you make representation for some autonomy, especially like the Diaspora organization, which should come under the parliamentary committee rather than the government, and also to the youth, answerable to the parliamentary committee, both opposition and government, so that no party has any control over those saying of the youths and things, because it will create that a diversion of interest and purpose.
Well,
Thank you.
political parties are vehicles with which the government is run, whether it's in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Ivory Coast. And so, for you to join a political party, there's also rules and regulations on how to join them. And so, it will be difficult to keep them anonymous as long as they want to join a political party. But don't forget, we have the African Youth Organization that actually are supposed to be independent by nature. Of course, if they have a good program, and people, just like we're seeing in Guinea-Bissau or in Senegal, and people believe that these youth organizations are doing quite the right thing, and they are not trying to be bought over by the government and the rest of them. The NSAS movement in Nigeria, um, it took the government by surprise because they had enough money to plan for mobilization, they have enough money to execute their actions, and they have millions of dollars to organize themselves, and the success of it and the impact of it was felt not only in Nigeria but worldwide. So yes, I'm of the opinion that when you have youth organization or youth with good intention, to better the life of Africans, I'm sure that we have a lot of good African goodwill, and we have a lot of people in Africa with goodwill who will willingly support those organizations to make sure they are being financed. So it depends on, like I said, it depends on the organizations, it depends on the youth and themselves. Once they are able to put up a very solid structure, I'm sure that we use probably the platform like Afrobizgermany and other organizations to make sure that we'll be able to raise money for them.
Good morning, panelists. This is your humble friend coming to join you to discuss the way forward for our for Africa. When though I'm still coming in, I didn't know what you were discussing, but I just caught something about the youth, talking about the youth. But there is something that I'm really very disappointed about most of the youth of Africa, because let me take Cameroon for instance. When you want to see a minister of youth affairs, the minister will be more than 70 years old. Okay, what can a 70-year-old man discuss about the youth? What do they know about the youth? Yeah. Okay, then again, there is something also that I watched yesterday in the southwest region of Cameroon. The youth yesterday they donated 5 million to support President Paul Biya to stand like their candidate for the next coming election. A 92 years old man that cannot even walk. The youths are rallying behind him, donating money to support him to go back for the candidate. What are the youths really teaching us? Let me know. I don't really know how I can put it.
I think you've answered it already, and that was actually part of my answer. That most youth who campaign to be pro youth, the moment you give them the opportunity, they turn away, they turn around and begin to fight the same youth that they were supposed to represent. What you just said is also very ridiculous. That the youth organization are contributing money to ask a 90-year-old man to stand a re-election. It beats my imagination, and I don't know exactly what is going on through their head. But of course, one thing is very obvious: corruption. You might be surprised that 5 million is not even from the youth. The politicians, they know a way, they know how to go around it. They will bring the 5 million, ask them to announce that they donated the 5 million for optics. but at the end of the day, they are not the person who are controlling it. So corruption is a problem both within the adult and also the youth. And like we said before, we should have also a lot of youths who should be coming up to speak against such youths who are trying to betray their destiny and betray what the youth stands for.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, I thank you all for the opportunity. I'm going to make it quite very short since we haven't got much time left. I heard we are talking about diaspora, remittance, and other things. But my question is, if you are someone who is living in the diaspora and investing in your country, just to say that I am from the Gambia, but I'm based in the UK. So if you are investing in your country and then you are not getting any support from the people in the community, let's say there's always vandalization happening, and then the way you want the business to run is not running in that manner anytime you're not around. So as a woman, it's frustrating for me because part of the money was an inheritance that I have got from my parents. I could have used it for myself, but I decided to give it back to the community, which is to give those lands and buildings to be operate as a school. And the community is not giving me anything in return, and I'm not even on their payroll. So this has been going on for the past 6 years. So I'm now getting too frustrated and don't know exactly what to do. And when I heard you guys speak, I'm like, okay, I should, try and ask question, to get, big brother advice or maybe a professional advice. But probably outside one-to-one, if you want me to give you more detail about everything that has occurred, since we haven't got much time, I try to make it short.
Very unfortunate to hear your experience. I'm sorry about that. It is not actually only particularly in Gambia. Also in Nigeria, it's also the same. That if try to invest on certain businesses, one has to be extremely very careful who you trust to invest on. One of the issues that we have noticed in diaspora, which I said again is across the African diaspora, not only in Gambia, they know that when you are coming from the diaspora, that you don't understand most of their mindset, most of the intricacies, and so they always find a way to frustrate you, and then at the end of the day, you're going to run and leave your investment and the rest of them. So that is why it's very very good that before you do any investment, that you do your due diligence to understand which businesses you're going to do in Africa that you can have a control of, even when you're not there. That is one. Secondly, to know exactly if you have reliable people that you can work. As the Nigerians in diaspora, what we have tried to do is that we are able to partner then with the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria, the ICPC. Part of our relationship or part of our MOU is to form an alliance with diasporans that are coming to invest in Nigeria to make sure that their investment is secured and that they're not going to be duped, so to say. But even at that, you might not probably be duped. But if you also invest in a project or in a that is not well thought of after, and then probably get the wrong set of people, they will basically use that advantage that you're not in the diaspora, that you're not in the country, to make sure that they rip you off. But like you said, we can take this discussion offline. Maybe when we have the details, we'll probably have one or two contacts in Gambia that we can help you reach out to and make sure that your investment is not in ruin.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will reach out outside.
No problem.
Like offline, yeah. Sorry.
I hope that will be the last question, Mr. Sampson. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. And it's a honor having you on the program and being able to speak to you today, a fellow brother from Africa, and in a position of influence for which we want to see the best. But my question is regarding the diaspora original concern. There seems to be, based on listening to you, there seems to be already significant government connections with the, significant government attention on the diaspora, particularly with the organization that you described and the lady that was put in power by the government. The thing is, what we are looking for out of this representation that already exists, which you are not saying has failed. You sound like you are still endorsing this already existing diaspora representation. Why isn't this representing this particular interest that we are talking about today, rather than seeking to further finance a lobbying process for the same issue that already exists in the representation technically? That's my submission.
That's a good question. No system runs on autopilot, which means every system needs human being to operate. We have the African Union, African Diaspora, which, like I said, is the best platform, or one of the best platform, not necessarily the only, to be able to to engage on a Pan-African level with the African nation. Since, like you can see, we are all from different parts of Caribbean, US, Germany, UK, and so on and so forth. So to have a one single giant organization that could be leveraged on the Pan-Africanism, that seems to be the African Union, African Diaspora. How it's able to be to be used for what we want, that's the biggest question, and that's where the human factor comes in. Samson also mentioned, and I mentioned, that running the Nigerian Diaspora Organization for 8 years has been very, very challenging. We have a lot of people with sympathy to the government. We have a lot of people with sympathy to their tribes. We have a lot of people with sympathy to their nation, and these are all challenging because whichever instrument, or whichever policy instrument you want to bring out to make sure that this work, you face opposition from each of these blocks, especially if you're not trying to favor them. So that is why the human factors play a role, and that is why, like you said, the impact of this African Union, African Diaspora has not been felt, because it was launched in Paris about almost 15 years ago, where the Africans are supposed to own this organization and run it across the different continents and also across different countries. The idea is to have the African Union, African Diaspora Europe, and under African Diaspora Europe, we have to have African Union, African Diaspora Swiss region, Germany, Italy, Burkina Faso, and so on and so forth, Africa and the rest of them. And so, unfortunately, up till now, we have not been able to operationalize that concept, that idea. So you cannot, hold a system responsible that we are not willing, to engage our time and resources to make it work. And so, yes, it is there as a concept, but for it to work, we need people to volunteer themselves and be able to organize this regional and continental, African Union, African Diaspora to make it work. And so I hope that answers some of your questions, and I hope I will beg the indulgence of the moderator to let me go, as I have other meetings I have to attend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It will be nice to be on your program next time. Bye-bye from here.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah.